Alright folks, I am going to show you guys this little book. At the beginning of this year I started this little art challenge for myself, and it started with making a bunch of these 52-page books here. You can see this one is about 6 months done, so that's why I'm making this video, to go through, show you some of these that I've done the last 6 months. But it's looking kind of a bit chunky here, a bit fat, because of some of the collages I've put in there. But it started off life like one of these. I made a bunch of these for my family for Christmas, and what they are these self-bound books. You can see that they're made with this kind of interesting marble paper that I got online. And then they are 52 pages, of course, so you could do one little piece of art every week for a year. Whether it be a little painting, a drawing, poem, collage, whatever it happens to be. I gave those out, and I've decided to, of course, keep up with that. And after 6 months, like I said, mine is already kind of hard to close. I might have to do a little bit of repair work on this. You can see that poor spine over there is screaming for room here. But I thought I'd show you what I've done for the last 6 months. Every Friday, I put up a new piece of art on a family text chain, and this thing has been growing. So let's start from the beginning. You can see here's this lovely heron on this indigo background. This is the first one I did, obviously, since it's on page 1. And I, was really into the Ghibli film, The Boy and the Heron. And I've always loved cranes and herons. They're very elegant birds. I just always liked, the shorebirds, or I guess you could say the wading birds in this case. And this imagery of it being, of course, framed by this little piece of ephemera and this moon over here really kind of spoke to me at the time. So made that one. And then I made this guy here. This one is kind of based off an Albert Bierstadt painting of this fellow over here being kind of in a snowstorm. And so for this one, I did a watercolor background over here to kind of look like a misty forest. I found this image on Tumblr, this kind of artifact PNG blog. Gets a little transparent images that are great for collages like this. And then I found this toned paper that I went through and layered to make it appear as if the character is going into the sort of painting over here, and looking up and, of course, seeing this very questionable eyeball figure, menacing, perhaps a little bit ethereal, who knows. But and then I used some mulberry paper to do these trees. You get a little bit of the wrinkled texture that I got with this, that I picked out with this dry brush of a kind of light blue to make it look like snow. And I did a little bit on his arms and hat and shoulder there. And that one turned out really, really well. I like that one. This one over here is one of the big reasons why, of course, there's so much expansion in this book. It's a heavily layered image. I'll get to show you the one page. Heavily layered image. It's like 3 or 4 layers there of this Jizo figure beneath this fig tree on this interesting kind of watercolored background that I tried to do little salt spots on. Not sure how successful this one is. Kind of you can see a lot of the white around the tree and everything like that, and I don't really know so much about it, but I think it's a very interesting image there. So there's that one. And then we can go for the next page. And these two really go together. I had this, obviously, this beautiful kind of labyrinthine art paper that I use as the background, and I found this image of this fieldwork stone ruin that I think was somewhere in either Turkey or Greece. But it really looked to me like, of course, the myth of the Minotaur, especially in conjunction with this maze-like background. And so I've always been fascinated by the Minotaur, right? Just images of it. And I found this one. This one is a statue in Spain that looks very, very contemplative. I really like that one. And I, of course, when I put it together, I thought, oh, this seems like it's missing something. So I wanted to use a little bit of the word here. So I went through and pulled a quote from one of my favorite Jorge Luis Borges stories, which is The House of Asterion. Not very long. I suggest you go out and read it. It's like I said, it's like a page and a half. It's not very long at all, but it's a very fascinating story that is a very interesting kind of tie to the myth of the Minotaur. And then, of course, you have these words from her that I found to be very, very interesting and very thought-provoking. And then I actually made these two at the same time. So I did 2 Fridays in a row over here. And this one, I wanted to echo this other one over here. So I tried to find a similar scene. You have the same fieldstone work here from the same ruin from a photo series that I got off of Tumblr. And I thought these two echoed each other pretty well because of the kind of this tree over here that's more towards the right, or I suppose my right of the picture plane, and this one, the tree is more towards the left. So it creates this kind of mirrored approach over here. And then I have this image of this Minotaur-like figure over here, which feels very much more feminine than this very masculine Minotaur, who is a statue by Leonora Carrington, the amazing surrealist artist from Britain and Mexico, of course. And then I had this in conjunction with this image of this guy kind of going, woo, kind of dipping back over here because I thought these shapes kind of complemented each other. And this natural kind of landing over here with these stairs felt like something belonged there. So there's that one. And of course, that moon imagery coming in again. So these two really go together. Next one over here. This one is a fun one. I'd been thinking about this one for quite a while, considering the state of the world and everything like that. And you have this interesting sort of philosopher figure over here on this painted background that I made with watercolor yet again. And of course, this burning sedan kind of in the midground, which complements pretty heavily with this. In fact, kind of blends in over here. So maybe it should have been a different thing, but maybe a different color. But I really like this image over here. And this one over here is a picture of the moon that was out. It was before, of course, dusk, so it was kind of like, late afternoon when I was going home from my parents' house one day, and this moon was really perfectly framed by these branches, which had this kind of warm hue to them. So I took a picture of that. And so that's the background of this. And then you can see these mossy tree roots that are kind of strewn around the picture frame over here with this very interesting figure that is from this person I saw on Instagram, Avocado Stone Faces. I really liked her sculptures. I don't think she's making them anymore, but I really liked that one. So I put a little figure of this guy over here who's this like druid figure in this kind of cave made from roots over here looking out onto like the moon, which is maybe at like the perfect spot only this time of year or something, and he knows that. So I thought that was a fun picture. And then this one, I really like these two over here, but this is one that I did when I found this image of the Dunstable swan, which is this kind of late medieval English, I guess you could say pin, a brooch, I think, that is representing one of the families that was big at the time, the Dunstables. And you can see that I have this watercolor kind of misty background like a moor, right? And then you have these twisted tree figures over here and this root over here, which has been used to make the ground. And the Dunstable swan, of course, has royal connections. So you can see this crown around its neck. And it's, of course, on this chain that I had to change a little bit. You can kind of see the line here, just so that it would flow more easily to this figure over here, which is a cutout from a John Bower painting. And John Bower is one of my favorite artists, really fantasy, very, very Scandinavian in terms of like the trolls and these traditional figures. And I really, really like this princess figure. And it goes and flows very well, creates this kind of U shape with the Dunstable swan. So a lot of cool imagery here, and I really like the way this one turned out. And then this next one over here was, of course, a fairy. You can see these moth wings in the background that I was able to find once again on Tumblr. This is a PNG of different moths, and I really liked the wing patterns on this one, so I chose that. And this fairy figure, this kind of ghostly image here that is going to be linked to this these fairy wings. And I created this sort of interesting velvet texture over here and back. And the original plan was to have like pins, like specimen pins stuck in this. But of course, I kind of had to abandon that because how could I close the book if there's pins stuck in it, of course. So I got rid of those. And I have this lovely frame from a medieval painting that I cut out the painting from, and may use the inside for something or not, but I thought it was a perfect kind of shaped frame for this image over here, which turned out pretty well. And then, yeah, this guy over here, this kind of ravenous dog chasing this rabbit figure. I really always like the imagery of rabbits. One of my favorite books is Watership Down, and I've always really liked rabbits. But you can see over here through this field and this tree kind of that I painted back here has this sort of dynamism where it's like pointing off this way from the picture plane. Yeah, this ravenous dog I got from a album by the band Mastodon. The Wolf is Loose was the single, and there's an image of this dog tracing some deer around the album, and I really, really have always liked this image over here, this dog that looks very at once wild, but very, very familiar, right? And you can see from his rim he's definitely hungry. And I have him at this high angle here coming down, chasing this rabbit. And this rabbit here is a weather vane. It was on the top of, like one of those things that tells the direction of the wind and speed of the wind, on top of like barns and stuff. And this one was just a perfect shape. It's moving forward with maybe confidence, whether it's good placed or not, but it's very, very direct, straightforward. So what happens is that you have the wolf going this way, and then the image continues that way. I don't know if that clashes with this tree. Maybe the tree should have been more this way to keep with that, but the grass, if you can't tell, that's definitely from a Van Gogh painting that I took that from to be the foreground. Then you have this guy here. That's an image of St. Anthony in a medieval wood cut style. He's, of course, sitting down, contemplating, spirituality. And I have him in this sort of stone frame from a monastery in Italy. And then you have in the background, of course, this lovely mountain scene by Nicholas Roerch, where you have this city in Nepal or Tibet, perhaps, in the mountains that is being viewed from down here. And in the background, of course, the midground, you can see this is rock here, and that's just from a random rock that I saw on Tumblr from Czechoslovakia, which was an interesting shape. Can't really see it too well because, of course, he's sitting on there. It's kind of behind the this window frame over here. But it's a very interesting image. It's like you're looking out from maybe a sister building over here, looking out, seeing this monk on a rock ledge before the rest of the the city over there, the temple. Like that one. Then you have here, Conference of the Birds type thing. You can have this hoopoe over here who is leading these other birds through the sky, and you have these golden rays being shot out from somewhere. So perhaps the guiding light coming from that direction, and the hoopoe's kind of leading them around. But yeah, that was a really nice one. I really liked the saturation I got in the blue over here on the gouache. And I spent a long time trying to angle these birds in a way that made sense. And I really like the way that turned out. Maybe too big of a gap here, but that's how it goes. Then you got this guy over here. Kind of a very obvious nod to the creation of Adam over there. You can see that I'm taking Michelangelo's arm over there of Adam, and you have it linked over here to Blue Demon, who is, of course, a mask wrestler, becoming perhaps some sort of deified figure. In the background over here, you have, of course, constellations, the old Greek heroes, trying to create some sort of link between there. Yeah, a lot to say about that one, but I like that one quite a lot. And I like the way this swirls over here. Very much a dramatic form here of Blue Demon over here. All right. This one's an interesting one. You can see that I'm playing with, of course, the light and dark over there. I don't know how successful this guy is over here. I really like the way I cut out the bird and everything, that sort of deep red that links to like kind of the hunter's instinct of maybe like a bird flying through the forest. But where I think I kind of screwed up here is I tried to do a clever thing with like masking the different parts of the paper beneath. But really, maybe I should have paid a bit more attention, because you can tell that this white over here, which I painted, doesn't quite match the white of the paper background. And I probably should just not mask that part, or perhaps should have masked that part, and let the natural paper shine through rather than just the white from the ink I used. But other than that, very interesting image. Maybe it could be executed better, but I like how that one is. Its neighbor, of course, is this one, which I quite like. found this statue of the Virgin Mary that was just absolutely gorgeous, very interesting in style, and I thought it looked very kind of mysterious as well. And so I paired that image with, of course, you have ideas of the Virgin of Guadalupe, or maybe with this ray of the sun behind her. It kind of reminds me of, Hildegard von Bingen and some of the images of her from different medieval manuscripts. So I thought that was a very interesting figure. I paired it with this hilltop that we took a picture of when I was down in Big Bend National Park last year. And it was a very interesting sort of hilltop, and it creates this sort of triangular figure here with the Virgin there. You have these blue flame-like emanations coming from this central area over here, linking itself to the Virgin here. Once again, kind of evoking that sort of mysticism of Hildegard von Bingen and the flames going into her eyes and everything. But these are actually pictures of melting ice. So you have ice flows at the end of glaciers, right? And water flows over, and it creates these very interesting carvings, right? And when you kind of cut it out from the rest of its context, it does appear to be flame. So that's actually ice there, which is pretty interesting. And then you have this beautiful glass piece behind her, forming this kind of swirling, kind of, I guess, spiritual sphere around her, which is very interesting. And of course, I toned the paper behind her. So I really like this image over here. It's very evocative, and you can read lots of different things into it, of course. And then you have this piece over here. Very simple image of a boat. I was experiencing with sepia, just using different weights of sepia on the background and different tones to create this nice image over here. I do like this one. The only thing I was worried about with this one is that it felt maybe too similar to the image that I took this one from, because you had all these lights, of course, that kind of echoing here with these white kind of bubble sort of figures. But I really like the way it turned out. I really like this one. I like the tone of it. Then you have this one over here, one I'd been thinking about for quite a while. I wanted to have an image of a kind of contemplative skeleton. And then you have this, of course, colorful, swirling energy that goes around the central cranium there. This skeleton is from a Louis Strempel painting that features this figure in kind of this very moody space, this very starkly lit room. And I brought that, of course, outside, and it's almost as if with the light here, that the light from this swirling energy around the head is casting a light over there, which I think is an interesting way of that turned out. Kind of like that one. And then another one that I really think is really cool, really stark, but one I'm not so sure I did enough to transform it, right? Did I justify doing this image? It has, of course, this Philip Jackson sculpture here, and in this dark room, so I created this kind of space around it and created these dark shadows that kind of create this very moody image that I really like. But once again, I was like, did I do enough to transform it? I kind of just drew black lines around it, so, but I like the way that one turned out. This is where I kind of got away from doing the previous, of course, decoupage, collages there. And this one I sculpted. Once again, you kind of have it linked to this contemplative skeleton over here, but this one is a sculpture based off of a painting by William Blake, right, Urizen. And I sculpted it to look like it was a medieval ivory or wood block kind of engraving that had really, really high relief. So I sculpted that out of polymer clay and baked it up and did a bunch of different versions of it. So this is the first one, and it turned out really well. And I have it here in a cell phone holder my dad made that really echoes the color here, and it fits really, really well. It kind of breaks it out of just being a square that I, of course, have pasted out and put on here and did a little bit of a halo around to kind of bring it into the picture plane there. I'm not sure how successful that was, but I did it anyways. But I really like the way that sculpture turned out, so took a picture of that, put it here. Then we have this one over here, give you an idea of what I was feeling at that time. I originally wanted to do this as a lino cut print, so I was drawing this out to do the carving for a lino cut. But then it was during my school's finals, so I was doing that and I wasn't paying that much attention, and I ended up like stabbing my thumb and bleeding all over the place. It was pretty funny. But out of that, I decided, I'm not going to do the lino cut right now, and I just took the idea. Obviously, I really love the imagery of John Henry, of course, and here he is smashing this sort of 1950s or so version of a robot. Of course, humanity overcoming technology in that sense. Really interesting. I like that one. I really love this red paper. I tried to use it as much as possible where I could, so I just love the tone of that one. Here is one. This is a figure from what's it called? The Cyclades. There are these islands between Turkey and Greece where you have these beautiful figures that are going to be made in the distant past, of course. They are, I don't know if they're Neolithic or not, or maybe they're Bronze Age, but they're these lovely figures, right? And this one is a harp player, of course, so I have him in this architectural space with this broad red wall. And I tried to burn a hole through this picture paper, but it doesn't really burn very well. It actually just kind of melts. So I melted a hole through there and then darkened the edges with a little bit of charcoal, right, to create a little bit of a burnt look to it. But and the paint that I was using wouldn't really stick very well, so I just stuck with that charcoal to make it look like that. But anyways, you have this image of this light bulb with this beautiful sort of halo, rainbow halo around it that is bursting through this, of course, and that links together these two ideas over here, which I think is really cool. Then you have this one, another one where I tried to bring in words. This one is from the lyrics from a Current 93 song, and then you have this image of this saint, this stone saint over here. Mixed with, of course, this coyote over here. And you have these kind of interesting sunset, someone once said southwestern colors, right? And I thought that was an evocative image. Kind of bothers me that the head of the coyote is maybe slightly too big. I probably, if I did this again, would maybe size that down a little bit. But, very cool otherwise. Here's another kind of interesting fairy tale image that goes along with that other one with the Dunstable swan. And you can see this, once again, misty forest in the background. I've put in these logs here as to kind of frame the scene with these mossy textures. Then you have this lovely sculpture by a guy named Marc Bouillier. And he does these awesome kind of, I think they're maybe driftwood figures, right, that have these lovely faces that, of course, remind me of trolls in some ways, right? So these sort of Scandinavian-style trolls. And since that idea was brought in my head, I thought I should go back to John Bauer, so I found another one of his images over here of another princess with a lovely crown. And you have, of course, these troll figures around her who are, perhaps interested or wowed or unsure of this human figure in front of them. So interesting images there. I really like that one. And then we have these two that kind of I did in the exact same week. Here is a little clay figure I sculpted and then painted up, carved out a little kind of staff for her. I call her the Owl Mother. So I sculpted her. She's just a little figure. She's like that big, actually kind of the same size as this really, so it's almost life size. But you have this figure over here, and I took a picture of it, right? And I was thinking, what could I do to make a collage on it? So I was about to leave for Japan at the time, so I was in kind of a rush. So I thought of doing this lovely kind of gold paper that I have a little bit of that I wasn't so sure of how to go about it. So made a border around her, and then a border with that red paper again. That was there. I think maybe I could have gone a bit further, maybe a few more layers. And if I did this again, I would certainly add more layers. But at the time, I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. It kind of creates as if it's like kind of wrapped in a clay, like a clay canopic jar or whatever. And you have this gold around it, right? So I like that one. And then from the previous sculpted figure that I showed earlier, I actually made a mold of it with silicone, and I've been experimenting with different plaster cast version of it and then doing different paint jobs, and here's a few that I did that I thought looked very interesting, grouped together like this, so I chopped them out, and that actually creates, I think, kind of a more interesting image than the previous one, which is this one over here. But, I like that one. I think I could have done maybe something around it or gave it a border, but I think that one turned out well. And then we go with the last one of the first 6 months, this guy over here, which is actually, this is a picture of another thing that I did, which is actually quite a bit bigger than this. I had this red figure over here, this kind of artifact for a long time, and wanted to use it in a collage, but it's actually big. It's like about, it wouldn't fit in one of these pages, right? So I was struggling, well, how am I going to use it? Because I really wanted to use that figure. I thought, okay, print it again smaller or whatever. And I thought, no. Let me do this on a separate thing, and then I'll take a picture of it and put it in here. And this one is going to be on a wooden panel that I did pastel over. So this sort of pastel gradient from this lighter blue to this really dark blue over here. I tried a number of different ways to get the stars, because I've already done that. I've already done that like in like some of these other ones, like this first one. You can see the stars in the background there, and I'm very familiar with how to do that with watercolor. But on the wood, because it wasn't sealed, anytime I would do little droplets for the stars, they would kind of be absorbed into the wood and they'd really fuzz out. And for a while I was like, oh no, that's not good. But in a way, it actually turned out better, because it makes it look more like, an actual kind of the diffuse light from stars outside. But anyways, that turned out pretty good. And then I got this figure, like I said, that I've been keeping for a while, and I nestled that in between these sets of dunes over here, which are going to be made from this lovely textured paper that I toned with this red brown, and then did these kind of contour lines, all kind of pointing in different directions, or I suppose in the same direction, like kind of creating layers there to make it look kind of like a hillside or some sort of windswept thing, right? So you could kind of indicate the directions of these different things. And I darkened, of course, here where they meet, but it wasn't actually all that dark. So I went to go take a picture of this in order to get these stark, dark areas over these shadows. I actually took a picture of it upside down, and then I got these much better shadows from it, and it turned out much better that way. So it's an interesting one that is kind of made by the picture I took of it rather than the actual thing, because you'd have to look at it upside down. And then in the middle, you have this figure. This is, of course, by Caspar David Friedrich. It's the, of course, Wanderer above the Sea of Fog. But here you have this wanderer looking on this desert scene and seeing this leftover piece of massive sculpture work here in the in this foreground, or in this background over here. Lots of course, meaning could be read into that, but I really like that one. And that is the last of the images for the first 6 months. A lot of really fun images over here, but you can see definitely it expanded the size of the book. So for the next 6 months, we'll see if this book can handle all this. But in the end, there you go. That's the tour of it. Thank you.